Ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is Preston Parsons, a UFC welterweight, fresh off his win over Evan Elder, like 2 weeks ago now, 2 weekends ago? How's it going today, man?
Good, going good. I just had some guys fight this past weekend, so we went 8 out of 9 won, so we're all kind of living it up here at the gym.
Oh, wow, yeah, talk about momentum, huh?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, they kind of fed off the energy I had off that win right into the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I like to do on the show is I kind of like to go full circle real quick, and I want to sort of ask you, what got you started with mixed martial arts specifically? Any moment, any person, anything specific?
I started real young as a kid. I had Rocky, honestly. That's kind of what really got me to fighting in general, not necessarily mixed martial arts, but I've always loved the underdog story, like being hard out of fighters and guys push, and that's why it was kind of cool for me to go all 3 rounds and kind of get pushed a little bit. And first time as a pro going all 3 rounds, so that was a cool experience for me.
Absolutely. So where do you get such an effective submission game from? Because when you look at your record, it's all finishes by submission in some way, whether it's rear naked, choke, guillotine.
That I've been training for 10 years now pretty actively in MMA, and jiu-jitsu was one of the things that really interested me when I was 16 and first found MMA. My stepdad introduced it to me, showed me some Royce Gracie videos, and kind of showed me the UFC fighters at that time, and I saw jiu-jitsu, and specifically Joe Lozon. He was one of my favorite fighters, and I would see jiu-jitsu work, and I was kind of hooked from watching it. And then I found a gym. I had some good coaches there, and there was always good coaches in and out. So my jiu-jitsu kind of came from working with them and just training and beating at it for years.
Right. So now we sort of get into your MMA career, and were you were undefeated as an amateur, 3-0?
5-0, yes, sir.
5-0, okay. So then we get into your UFC career, and again, you're doing well. You start off 2-0. You run into Mike Perry. You get your first loss. Let me just ask you, as a professional, like, how does it feel to taste defeat for the first time? Like, what were the feelings on that?
It was tough. It definitely it hurt, but I think that a loss should hurt a little bit. It should fuel you, motivate you, make you never want to feel that way again, and kind of take that into your next training camp.
Yeah. So was there like a certain point in time where you said, all right, I'm ready to go to the UFC? Was there ever a certain moment in time you could pinpoint, or did you feel you were ready, even fights before you went to the UFC?
I felt like I was always kind of ready. Looking back now, I realized that I wasn't, and everything happens for a reason, and but the timing was kind of perfect. But I felt like I was ready for a long time, and then finally got the opportunity, and I felt like I was more than prepared. But again, now looking back on it 5 years ago when I was saying I was ready, I don't necessarily believe that I was.
So you won you went on that 4-fight win streak, then you got signed to the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. What's the story behind that? How did they sort of find out about you and want to bring you in?
My manager, I have a very good manager, Steve Swedish with Ruby SC, and I signed to him right before I fought June 5th. And I already had that fight scheduled before I signed with him, but he believed in me right away and told me he was going to try to get me a shot at the UFC ASAP. And we were actually looking to fight on a Bellator card, and then he called me and said, or the next day after we were talking about that, and said that the UFC had a dropout and asked me if I was interested in fighting D-Rod, and I took it without hesitation.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Is that why the fight came about? Because that's a really tough fight. You know, like, just to give you credit here, like that's a super tough fight to be taking for your UFC debut, right? Did you think you were ready? Like, what was the thought process behind that? Was it because you were just sort of filling in as a late replacement? You could have missed that opportunity?
Yes, I definitely couldn't pass up the opportunity. I didn't know too much about D-Rod going into that one. I watched his fight with Mike Perry, and I tuned into that one just because I wanted to see Mike Perry fight, because that was one of my losses. And I didn't really know too much about him. I think that going into that fight now, I had a better mindset, naturally a camp for it. I think I would do a lot better, if not win that fight. So I don't think I was really underprepared. I just didn't really have the right mind frame going into it.
But you were aware to some extent that he had like a lot of experience, right? That you were going in there with a guy that had like a lot more experience in the UFC, particularly like against you.
Yes, definitely. But again, I didn't really know what that really felt like until I fought the UFC. Because it is different. It's a bigger stage, it's a bigger cage, and it's what we're all kind of striving to be.
So you said that you think you could beat him, right? You think you could take him in a fight. How did you feel in there with him? Any takeaways? Did you feel that you didn't feel like he was levels ahead of you or anything like that, right?
No, I didn't feel like he was levels ahead of me. He's definitely good, very good range, a good southpaw. He hits pretty hard. A few of the shots I ate them, and I wasn't really. None of them really rocked me. The only thing that really affected me in that fight was that punch to the eye. And again, it felt like a poke at first, but going back watching it was definitely a punch. It was a solid punch. And I was kind of just flowing. It more so felt like a sparring match opposed to an actual fight, I guess, in my mind. I was being almost too relaxed and having too much fun with it.
Do you think that punch changed the course of the fight significantly for you? Because it seemed like after that punch, things just went downhill after that.
Yes, no, definitely. It blinded me, and it made sure I definitely couldn't open that eye, but then blinking as much as I was kind of affected my vision altogether.
Have you ever been hit like that, just flush right in the eye in a fight?
Yes, actually, the Mike Perry fight, he finished. I kind of broke mentally in that fight. That's another thing I took away from that loss. Is to just keep fighting no matter what. That's what kind of hurt me the most about that fight. Like I always wanted that underdog Rocky fight where I'm hurt, bloody, and I'm still coming forward, still going. And Mike Perry landed a flush knee to that same exact eye, and I kind of broke after that.
Yeah. So, what was there any like big learning lesson from that fight? Do you feel like almost lucky in a way to have lost your debut so you get that learning lesson out of the way?
Yes, I definitely would have liked the win and to learn that lesson in another way, maybe further down the line in a bigger fight. And but yeah, I would like to have at least taken more of a beating than I did for the stopping. I could have kept going. I just was I was pretty crippled by that eye blow.
Yeah. So how did it feel for you to finally go the distance in your last fight? Because if I'm not mistaken, that's the first time you've ever gone the distance ever in a fight, right?
That's right, and it felt good. Yeah, it felt good to go those 3 rounds because it's a lot of experience in the UFC cage, which again it's a lot different than fighting on the regional scene or fighting amateur. And I felt comfortable. I had more time to have fun, so I actually enjoyed that fight. I was a little bit tired, not too bad. I was squeezed on those head arm shows, so I kind of had my arms kind of fatigued. But other than that, I felt good. And it was definitely a great experience for me to go all 3. I didn't want to. It was the whole fight. I was trying to get him out of there. I was trying to get a TKO. I was trying to squeeze on those head arm shows, trying to get his back. Evan Elder is just tough as nails, so I couldn't get the finish on that one.
Is that what it was? Is that what you would attribute it to? That was like the key difference in that fight going the distance? Because, obviously you finished all your fights before that, never gone the distance. Something had to have been completely different in this fight.
Right. Well, yes, I do contribute it to his toughness, but also there's some details I could add to that head arm show to get the finish a little more effectively and tighten up my striking a little bit more. And I definitely had opportunities to get him out of there, and I didn't do it.
How'd you feel like cardio-wise going into like the 3rd round, say?
My cardio felt good. My wind felt good. My arms were a little fatigued and a little heavy from squeezing for the better half of 2 rounds. But other than that, I felt good. I could have gone 5 rounds.
So was there anything different in this preparation from this fight that you just had to the last fight to the UFC debut? Was the preparation any different at all?
Yes, a lot different. For the UFC debut, it was a short notice. I took it on, I think, a week's notice. And I was fresh off of a fight June 5th. So I fought a month after. I fought June 5th, and then my UFC debut was July 17th. So after that June 5th fight was one of my better fights, too. I got a lot of good standing elbows, a lot of time on my feet, striking. And then I got to finish in the 2nd round with the arm bar. So after that fight, I was kind of not in camp. I enjoy sweets and stuff, so my diet wasn't that clean. And I wasn't really sparring. I wasn't really training like I normally would if I had a fight coming up. So there wasn't much of a game plan or much of a camp leading up to my debut. But this last fight, we had a chance to work everything. And we definitely didn't focus on anything specific. It was mostly sharpening up all the tools that I have, sharpening up my wrestling, my striking, jiu-jitsu, just being the best I can everywhere. Because the original opponent, Kosi, was a pretty well-rounded opponent. So I was just trying to be a little tighter, a little sharper everywhere.
Yeah. So how do you feel now, post-fight? How does the body feel? How does the mind feel?
Body feels good. Mine feels great. I'm on top of the world. My hand's broken, so I get surgery on Thursday. It was supposed to be today, but it got pushed back to Thursday. Um, but other than that, my knees are scraped up a little bit. That canvas is rough, but besides the hand, I'm sitting pretty right now.
And what's the recovery time on that hand? Did they give you like an estimate on anything?
They said no training for 8 weeks, no punching for 12 weeks. But I'll probably get back to sweating and working out and stuff right when I get the cast off or the splint.
Yeah. Well, so that's not too bad.
No, not bad at all. And I actually had surgery on my right hand after the D-Rock fight. I tore some tendons in that fight doing the punches and warming up and stuff. So it's the same doctor that did my right hand doing my left. So I'm kind of familiar with the process.
Absolutely. So once you recover from that and you feel like you're ready to go, is there anyone or anything you want specifically at this moment?
No, there's no specific guys. I do want to find a ranked opponent, hopefully. I know I'm the new guy, so I probably won't get a ranked guy, but I just want to keep building up my name, building up my record, and then get a number next to my name, and then fight Kamaru Usman. That's the goal for almost, I'd say, for every 70 on the roster.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what my next question was going to be, was how do you, so I guess that answers it. You don't feel like you're far away from the ranked guys. You feel like you could compete with the ranked guys now?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I would, I'm definitely a top contender. I plan on proving that, hopefully fighting again before the end of the year.
So in a perfect world, you get a ranked guy next, and then say what? You get like 3 fights maybe, then you fight for a title, something like that?
Yes, that sounds about right.
All right, man. So is there anything you're up to now? Anything you want to plug specifically? Anything going on in your life?
We just had the guys fight this weekend, so I'm
right.
Congratulate them. And
what was the names of those guys?
I had Timothy Klein, Owen Binding, Kevin Church, Joshua Lee as a pro.
Okay.
It was mostly amateurs. The one pro guy was Josh Lee, and he's been one of my coaches for years. I met him in 2012. Fought, I think, starting his first fight was in 2008. Never had an amateur record, just went straight pro. So he was kind of my guy for the questions, like, what do you do at stare downs? How should I feel about this and that? How do you warm up? And kind of the guy I went to for my questions. Because again, the gym I started at, I didn't really have very many. I had a good wrestling coach, but other than that, I didn't have much guidance. So he kind of guided me along the way. And he was actually in my corner for this past fight, and I was in his corner this weekend. But yeah, Josh Lee and another amateur guy. We had Owen Binding, Timothy Klein, Kevin Church, Latrell White. We read a lot of guys. Mike Dragish, Joshua Kelly. I think that's about it.
Yeah. How long have you been at Elevate? Just to wrap up. Let me ask you that.
2 years. I'm part owner of Elevate, and me and my partner Cord opened up right in the middle of COVID, so we had some struggles dealing with that, but we're starting to become a successful gym.
Excellent. So do you know where people can follow that on social media platforms?
It's just Elevate MMA, and we're on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Preston, thank you so much for joining the show, man. It's been a pleasure, and we'll be rooting for you in the future, man. Best of luck.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me, and anytime you guys want to talk again, I'm open for it.
Absolutely, man. Take care.